San Francisco, it's Rex Broadcasting Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling. We got Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly here. We were scheduled to have Jeff Jarrett here in the second hour, and we're awaiting confirmation of that as we speak. So just want to let you know that. Not the most newsworthy week in wrestling as compared to some of the weeks we've had. A lot of fallout still over the death of Elizabeth Hewlett and the arrest of Lex Luger. Last night on Confidential, they played the 911 call, which was quite chilling. Don't you think, Brian?
I would say so.
I didn't expect that.
No.
A lot of people are pretty upset about the Confidential piece, but aside from the fact that Vince McMahon kind of did a backhand comment about how here in WWF we're family and in WCW they were just commodities. Aside from that, I didn't really have a problem with it because it wasn't like there was anything that they said that wasn't factual or reported elsewhere, other than it was sort of tacky to do that big graphic on the screen that said homicide when we all know it was not a homicide.
Yeah. I think the thing with me was I think it would have been better if they just would have gotten all the news stuff out of the way and played the 911 call and got all that stuff done and then did the tribute and then did the rest of the show. Instead, it was like every commercial was, we're going to play the 911 call, but just wait, we're going to play that a little bit later, and total pathetic ratings grab, and I don't know. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But
well, you're right, but, to me, see, I've watched so many news shows, when you watch the news show and they do that all through the news show?
I hate the news shows, too, if that makes sense.
Okay, that's the reason why I can't be, I understand, and it was being exploitive at the same time. It was just, like a news show except for some of the comments. I actually thought that Hogan, out of all the people, was the only one who kind of knew the story. I think everybody else was kind of in a, I don't want to say fantasy land, but they just,
when
they weren't there.
And blaming WCW, that was a little fantasy landish.
Oh, yeah. WWE was in England this week. We had got a couple of matches. Raw on Monday, very strange lack of wrestling show. And they announced Triple H and Kevin Nash. And, of course, now we got Brock Lesnar and Big Show in a stretcher match. It's going to be quite the pay-per-view next Sunday.
Especially because I think Kevin Nash is going to win.
Wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to head to a break right now. If you want to join in, you can join us at 1-800-877-PLAY. Although there are no lines available right now, we're going to start getting phone calls in just a second. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We're here on Mother's Day. Did you do anything nice for your mother today?
Did I do anything what?
Nice for your mother today.
Yeah, I got her flowers.
Well, that was nice.
And my grandmother.
Well, she helps you a lot.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, anyway.
We had a fun Kentucky Fried Chicken celebration.
Oh, did you eat?
Yeah, I ate.
Oh, man, today, well, if this has anything to do with anything, I went to this fancy restaurant for breakfast, and I was like the only person eating healthy, right? Out of everyone there, right? So there was just no problem, except that they screwed up my order, and I was just a nice guy and didn't make a scene.
That's good. It's Mother's Day.
That's right. But if I had
days to eat, and today was one of them.
That's right. But had I been uptight, tightly wound, all chemicaled up, like a professional wrestler, it would have been a bad scene.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, this was, I got to say, though, now, like having said what we've said about the Confidential piece, I'm stunned that they mentioned on the air that, one of the indictments had to do with, trafficking.
Did they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They said it with intention to distribute on the growth hormone.
Oh, I kind of missed that part.
Oh, yeah. It was quite...
well, it's true.
It's true. Just quite weird.
If they would have actually said the word steroids.
They did say the word steroids.
I thought they just said controlled substances.
No. When they showed, they said steroids later.
Oh, that's right, because they actually had the name of the growth hormone.
That's right. They had controlled substances in the first part of the piece. In the second piece, they said steroids.
Yeah.
which I thought was quite interesting as well. But nothing that wasn't true. We're going to, let's see if there's anything else about, as far as the news goes this week. I don't know, I was just like so unimpressed by Raw and SmackDown. Raw, the Steve Austin, Eric Bischoff stuff, it's like we've done it, and God, that's all they did. There was very little wrestling. SmackDown had more wrestling, and I didn't hate SmackDown, but it was just like this train going nowhere.
Yeah. I wish that the Hulk Hogan thing was more mid-card than I know it's going to end up being, because there's something about it that I just enjoy so much.
Well, there's nothing wrong with it except it just overwhelms everything on the show.
Yeah, it's going to be a main event feud.
Well, it's not even. You know what though? He's not. As far as I know, they're not even wrestling on the pay-per-view. So all they've done is bury the guys that are on the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Because it's like the whole show. I mean, the whole show is just Mr. America Hulk. That's all they build around.
Mm.
That and Sable and Tori Wilson, who are at least on the pay-per-view. But I don't know. I mean, it's just the same old. It's an excuse to get.
There's a major lack of direction.
There's major.
Well, maybe Vince has his own little direction that he's got in his brain, but
no, he doesn't. Because if there was, they would be building towards it.
Well, he's got his direction in his mind for his own stuff.
Oh yeah. I'm sure that whole angle's. I'm just talking about company at large building people up and stuff like that.
Well, he has no concern about that.
Yeah.
Because those guys don't make any money. It's him and Hogan.
But they don't make any money either.
Oh, come on. They drew WrestleMania.
That's right.
People that showed up?
That's right. First of all, that was sold out before anyone knew what the card was.
Come on.
And that pay-per-view buy was disappointing. Very disappointing. In fact, there's plenty of people who've lost their jobs over that pay-per-view buy rate.
Yeah, but that was the undercard guy's fault,
Yeah, I know. We're going to go to Jeffrey in New York City. You're first up. What's up, Jeff?
What's going on? I got a question, just one question this week. I was reading in Luthez book over something that had to do with WrestleMania in the Hogan era, and he said that it was not that Hogan popularized wrestling, it was that the New York media popularized it. Is that they covered Hogan, and because of the New York media, it has such a powerful influence. Everyone caught along. Where do you stand on that? Do you think he has?
Having lived through that, there's a lot of truth to that. It's not. I mean, Hogan was a big drawing card as a wrestler, as a professional wrestler. Okay, but as far as who and why wrestling got, I guess what we would call mainstream coverage, that wasn't because of Hulk Hogan's popularity. That was because the media embraced it because of Cyndi Lauper and Mr. T, and Hulk Hogan kind of was one of the great beneficiaries of that because he was the big star of that era when everybody embraced it. It wasn't like Hulk Hogan got so popular that they had to cover it. And it was nothing like that. So, I mean, the media stuff came from Cyndi Lauper and Mr. T, though.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. Okay, all right, that's it.
Okay, we're going to go to Tom in Atlanta. Tom, what's going on?
Hey, Dave. Do you think Kevin Nash he currently holds the record for the worst drawing WWE champion, right?
Yes, he does.
Do you think he'll beat any records once he becomes champion again? For zero attendance, or
that's going to be interesting. See, the one thing that they got going that they didn't have when Kevin Nash. I'm trying to answer this seriously. When Kevin Nash was champion, they didn't have this Monday Night Raw that is going to draw just based on the name Raw that they have now. But if you take that away, I think there's a pretty good chance that his numbers will be, if he wins it, will be lower now than they were in '95. Yes. If you take away the Monday night number and you just do the 3 house shows a week number.
When's your next update on the title history coming up on the Observer?
Maybe this week. If not, I don't know. Maybe this week though. Yeah.
Do you think do they plan on bringing any colorful wrestlers from the past for the Intercontinental Battle Royal, like China or Pat Patterson or somebody?
That actually would be funny if they brought Pat Patterson in for that. I haven't heard. I don't think so. I mean, I haven't heard anything about China. It wouldn't shock me at all. All things considered, for them to bring China back at this point.
Yep.
That would be really scary, though. I don't know. I got my thoughts. We could actually talk about the Intercontinental deal too. Just much.
Until the major players are out of. The major manipulators are out of the top spot. I mean, what's the point?
And the other thing is the major manipulators are not going to lower themselves to that belt. And once you have a belt that the stars don't lower themselves to, what's the point?
Yeah.
What does it matter?
Finally, I was reading from your last installment of the title history. You said that that toughest bouncer contest on that Mr. T did that was a work.
I don't know that it was a work, but it was set up for him to win. I guess that means it's a work.
For whose advantage, though?
What's he talking about?
The thing that got Mr. T really famous, which was he was
NBC had like that.
NBC World, yeah, because they were grooming him to be like a TV star.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah. It was already like up in it was already planned.
So they had like A-Team in the back of their minds when they.
I don't know necessarily they had A-Team, but they had somebody spotted him. I think he was bodyguarding at the time for Muhammad Ali, but he was bodyguarding for a famous boxer, and he had that look, and everybody kind of noticed him, and they
chains.
The chains and the mohawk. Nobody had a mohawk in those days. He was pretty buffed,
He had the chains even before he made it big?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He was, and, he's got the face. He had a great face. Everybody was scared of him. He looked like the world's meanest bodyguard.
And that was strictly as a vehicle to get him...
So they came up with this world toughest bouncer thing to make him a star, and that was to, set him up to whatever we're going to do with him after that, yeah.
Right. Very quickly on the Confidential show, they said that Wembley was the second highest drawing card next to
Hogan and Andre. Well, they had to say that.
All right, have a good night.
Okay, you're welcome. I was kind of bummed that they edited that match so much.
Did they actually have obvious cuts?
Well, the match was like 25 minutes, and they showed like 4 minutes total.
Yeah, it was weird because I was.
They showed about the first 2 minutes, then they made a cut, and then they were in the last 2 minutes.
They did a hell of a cut because it was over.
It was just a cut, and I was going like, all right, I was kind of in the mood to sit there and watch it. The only thing I got to say is what a pop.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that Hogan Goldberg pop was big when they showed that a couple of weeks ago. Nothing. I can't remember a pop that I've ever seen like that for a wrestling match.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was something. The other thing that was interesting watching it was Bret Hart really, I mean, again, I only saw 4 minutes of it, but boy, it looked like he was totally carrying that match.
Well, I mean, I know Bulldog's dead, but if you really look at the matches throughout Bulldog's career, I mean, he wasn't like a great worker all the time.
No, but he was a very talented guy when he when he was motivated.
A really great match.
Right. No, if he was with a bad opponent, it was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't like a guy who, when there's, could have a good match with a bad guy. Yeah. That was like the highlight of his career, though.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. We will go to Jonathan in Savannah. Jonathan, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not too much.
I had a comment, first of all. I want to say that there's a rumor floating around the internet about when Kevin Nash was walking to the limo, he stopped halfway to get his hair dyed again.
Oh my God!
But my question with that, I have a couple questions. To go with that, do they realize how bad of a reaction, and not like bad as in like good heat, but bad heat he got on Raw on Monday? I mean, even though they're in Canada, and they'll probably blame.
They did. They blamed those unappreciative fans who didn't understand how great a segment that really was.
Talking about the Nash
Triple H thing on Monday night.
It went on for I don't know how 20, 30 minutes. I don't know how long it was, but I mean, it still looked like it looked like it was in slow motion the whole time.
Yeah, it was really scary. Jonathan, hold on. We'll get back to you right after the break, okay? Okay, you're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. For information on how to get either of these publications, you can go to www.wrestlingobserver.com. We've got all the news updated every morning, or actually every afternoon. TV reviews, plus information on the latest issue of Wrestling Observer newsletter that I put out every week, and Figure 4 Weekly that Brian puts out every week. They are the best publications. If you really want to learn about what's going on in wrestling, that's the way to go. Seriously. Let's go back to Jonathan in Savannah. Jonathan, what's going on?
Not much. Dave, I have a couple questions for you. You and Brian. My first one is, why is Jericho wrestling on Heat tonight? That
was just because on that last Monday they didn't have a match for him. They just had him do the highlight of the night deal. So they figured since he's there, he might as well do a wrestling. do a wrestling match, so they had him and Hurricane wrestle on Heat.
And so then tomorrow night he's going to get squashed.
Very might as well do a wrestling match, so they had him and Hurricane wrestle on Heat.
And so tomorrow night he's going to get squashed.
I think so, yeah. Everyone seems to think so. And he has to. I mean, think about it. Nash is in the main event on the next pay-per-view. You really can't do any other finish.
Yeah. And I have another question about if Big Show had so much heat on him for dropping Rey Mysterio like he did, or swinging him and dropping him, not protecting him, why does he still have a championship match?
Because that's what they were building towards, and they didn't want to change their storyline. And then, you know what? If they would have switched that, then it would have really been stupid, because at least... Because then, like, Rey Mysterio would have been hurt with, like, no purpose whatsoever.
Okay.
I mean, not that this is a good purpose, but, you know, it's like, to me, like, I don't like it when they punish somebody by, you know, changing their storylines and having things not make sense. And even when it's Big Show, you know, I mean, there's nobody else ready. I mean, they could put Benoit in there, but it's not, you know, to me, when Benoit gets a shot, which he needs to get, like, win after win after win after win after win, somehow break him out of the pack, because this Chris Benoit, where he is right now, of course he's going to have a great match with whomever the champion is, Lesnar or whatever, but there's not going to be any sole interest in it because, you know, how he's been portrayed lately.
Okay, I got a question then.
Yes.
Big Show has his pay-per-view match on Sunday or whatever. Is it next Sunday?
It's next Sunday.
Okay. I'm presuming he's going to lose.
I'm presuming, too.
So what do they do the next Thursday?
In what sense?
Well, who's Brock's next challenger? Doesn't it would make sense to...
Well, they've got the one thing they've got 2 months, and I think the idea is Kurt.
Oh, 2 months. They're going with that one.
Yeah. So I mean, that's
they're counting on a dude that they don't even know if he's going to be back in 2 months.
Yeah.
They're going to rush that rematch to the next pay-per-view 2 months down the road.
That's right, without the long build that match should deserve, yes.
And they're still going to go with the split pay-per-view. That's actually the most absurd of all, but...
Well, they still are today, yes. Unless they've changed it in the last, 2 days.
Well, they're doomed.
I'm just trying to have as much fun as possible watching this happen.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it's going to happen, and there's, it's not like WCW where, every week we, kept trying to, they're not going to listen to anything we say.
Actually, you did.
What?
I tried. You talking about how you were sad at the end.
I'll be sad at the end now, but I'm just going to have as much fun as possible until it ends, so then when the sadness comes, at least I haven't been sad for 4 straight years.
That's right.
Because it's going to be a long time. This isn't going to be a 1-year deal.
I predict 10.
It might be.
They're still laying guys off now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have so much cash that they can still slowly burn.
Yeah, but they're not going to burn it slowly once Vince is out of the picture. Because what will happen is it will go down and go down and go down, and then finally, the coup will happen and Vince will, really give up the reins, and then it'll go to Hunter and Stephanie. And when it goes to Hunter and Stephanie, it will not go down slowly. It will go down quickly at that point.
Yeah.
Anything else, Jonathan?
Yeah, I had a quick question about what were your, two quick if I can say them real quick. What thoughts on the John Cena piece last night on Confidential, and also what is the outlook for Ultimo Dragon?
The outlook for Ultimo Dragon is not good, and for the John Cena piece, I was laughing, so I guess it was good.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think of the John Cena piece?
I might venture to do that. I'd probably about the same as your reaction. I don't know. It's kind of goofy, but I guess whatever. I don't know. His character.
I don't know if it was like main event heel, but I was entertained. I was entertained with him and Josh, because Josh is so uncool. You know what I mean?
When Josh tried to do that thing at the end.
Oh God, yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Alan in Deerfield Beach. Alan, what's happening?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty good.
I was appalled by the way Hogan was talking. He had to stick in little cheap shots at Randy Savage. That's how I felt.
Really? I thought that Hulk Hogan was just being far more honest than Hulk Hogan usually is. I mean, really? I don't think they were cheap shots. I think that it's just what it was. I mean, that's what it was. I mean, it's like, a lot of people are going oh my God, they buried Randy Savage, they buried Lex Luger. To me, the truth buried those guys. It's not like there was anything there's nothing that was said about either of those guys that wasn't true.
Yeah, I mean, what is Hogan going to go on there and say Savage was such a great husband and
yeah, I mean it was like
the thing fell apart and
yeah, it was a storybook marriage. It's like Hogan's just that was the deal and he knows. I mean, his wife was friends with Elizabeth.
I know.
And he was friends with Elizabeth.
I mean, they were talking about the death. They weren't talking about actually the marriage.
Oh, yeah, they were. Yeah, they were. In the storyline. And they couldn't avoid it because her marriage to Savage was so public.
True.
And they couldn't avoid talking about that subject.
Right, but nobody really knew about the trouble behind the scenes that much, right?
I mean, I think everyone in wrestling knew.
Right, I'm talking about fans.
General public, it's never really been brought up, but I don't see how you avoid the subject when you're talking about her life.
Now, I also wanted to ask you about, in Blassie's book, have you read it yet?
Yeah, I read it. I liked it a lot.
It was great, saying the Killer Khan story about the ankle. Is that true?
No, he had that story wrong. You're right.
Yeah.
He said that the Killer Khan. I got to write that down. Thank you very much.
Killer Khan said actually that I accidentally dropped on him.
That was the story. That was the storyline at the time. Actually, Andre got out of bed, fell down, and
that's the truth.
That's the truth. Yeah, in his hotel room. Right. And Killer Khan was the guy he was working with, so they decided to credit to Killer Khan, and it made Killer Khan's career for several years.
Sure, but when he wrestled that night, the ankle was already broken, or what?
And no one really knows when it got hurt because Andre drank so much, he was so numb. It was when he, it may have happened in the ring with Killer Khan for all we know. But I think the thing I don't think so though. I think that he just got out of bed wrong, and without your ankle, it could do a lot of damage.
So maybe he aggravated in the ring. Is that possible?
Oh, yeah, it's possible.
Okay, and I also want to ask you about Blassie's book. Obviously, he didn't like Johnny Valentine.
Well, he wasn't the only one.
Really?
Oh, God, no, Johnny Valentine was not well liked among wrestlers. He was very feared among wrestlers and extremely respected among wrestlers, but not well liked. He was a very moody guy who kept to himself. What Blassie said about Valentine was consistent with everything I've heard about Valentine.
What a strange way to gain respect.
What?
Really hitting people in a fake match.
Huh? Hitting people.
Well, that's what a lot of guys got. How a lot of guys got respect in the 50s. Don't ask me why.
Right.
Because you remember, like in that era, not like this era.
Right.
The guys that were real shooters were the ones that had the respect. And quite frankly, what did it matter if they were real shooters or not? It wasn't a real shoot.
Right. Well, it kind of mattered, I guess, in the 50s.
Well, it mattered because it mattered to the promoters and because the real shooters could take advantage of you if they wanted to, and some of them did too.
Yeah. Was Rogers that bad of a shooter?
Rogers was not well regarded as a shooter. Everybody, no. Rogers was a big, well-conditioned guy who was known for picking on guys who were smaller than him, and the top guys all hated him because when it came to the top guys, Rogers was, the exact opposite. So Rogers, I guess, would be more of a bully than anything else.
He would try things in certain matches, right?
But never with anybody who was tough. Only with guys who were like 185 pounds, and then he would yeah.
He never tried to double cross Thez.
Oh please, he was scared to death of Lou Thez, and he told me that himself.
They became best friends, didn't they?
Oh no, they were enemies until right before Rogers died. They met in New York and they kind of hashed it out, and they were on decent terms when Rogers died, but up until a year before Rogers' death, every time I talked to Thez, nothing but negative about Rogers. Other than
you don't think they were working?
Other than that he always thought that Rogers was a great worker.
Right.
Yeah.
And you said Johnny Valentine. I'll let you go, but Johnny Valentine and McDaniels were best friends, right?
I don't know if they were friends or not. I know that they worked together a million times, but I don't know.
You're not sure?
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, thank you.
Okay. I know that they had a famous fight in a hotel room, so don't know what happened there, but I know that there was one. Let's go to Matthew in Boston. Matthew, what's going on?
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Doing very well.
A quick mention. I went to right into this. Maybe I didn't. I was at the Backlash pay-per-view, and they were actually doing something in the last 2 or 3 pay-per-views I hadn't seen. They're checking signs at the door. They really had a security guy before you even walked through the turnstiles, where you even gave the person a ticket, actually looking at every single sign that was part of it.
I've seen that happen at, or heard about that happening at other TV events.
There's something new that they're doing.
I know that when every time I've been to a TV event, before TV goes on the air, they do this thing, and it's like, we want to see your signs. Everyone that's here, show your signs, and they show your signs and cheer and stand up, and then they go out there and then they start stealing them. Start taking all the ones that say WCW was really good.
Question: Tito Ortiz, the Liddell. Anything happening with that? Or
I've heard rumors this week that something has happened with that, but I don't know for sure. The rumor is that they may fight in November if Liddell beats Randy Couture on June 6th.
Because I was hoping that maybe isn't there supposed to be September 1 supposed to be in Boston maybe at that time?
They've canceled the Boston. That was the original idea, but unless Dana White changed his mind since. Dana White kind of only wants to do 3 sites now. He wants to do the Uncasville, Connecticut, Atlantic City, and Las Vegas because he thinks that when they go to new places, the crowds are not that smart, and he doesn't like the crowd reactions, so I think he just wants to keep going back to the places where they have the smart crowds. Okay?
Oh, do you have to go to a break or no?
Yes, we do.
Okay, can I hold for a break? I hit a couple more quick.
Okay, sure, you can hold on. We'll be back with more. You'll listen to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. And we're going to go back to Matt in Boston. Matt, what's going on?
Yeah, a quick comment on the confidential piece last night. I just got my Observer newsletter, cheap plug.
Okay.
Obviously read everything with great interest, and then seeing the show. And I thought it was very forthright and very well done. One of the better pieces I've seen in a long time. And I thought Vince McMahon came off as very humble and kind of very honest, probably one of the more honest, and he was kind of almost seemed emotional in his interview, his little comments there near the end about like to all these young people, why do these people after they lose the spotlight and the star fades, they seem to get in trouble? Or
it's a tough transition, to make, and that's why these guys keep coming back when they retire, because it's just up. You know what? Vince again, because Vince is an actor, okay? And that doesn't mean that he's always acting, but
95% of the time.
But most of the time he's... But I thought the same thing at the end of the show, when Vince did that thing where he just goes, well, I'm not mad, well, I kind of am mad. I thought that was like, this is the closest thing to real that I've seen Vince do in a long time.
Yeah, it's true. He just kind of had to...
I thought that he was just frustrated and sad and mad and, everything all rolled into one.
Didn't you find that him kind of... Somebody else, one of the other callers, thought he was like kind of putting down Luger. I thought he kind of like built him up a little bit.
I didn't think he built him up.
Just he was high. He was one of the top people, and I'm like after what you wrote and what we've known before about him and running when he left him the first time to go to
I thought that there was a little bit of I finally got my revenge on Lex Luger in that piece, but the truth allowed him to do that without stretching, and there was no stretch, but I did think that,
Not really trashing him,
I think that I don't know that they would have, again, we'll never know, but I don't know that if it had been somebody else that was arrested with all those drugs, that they would have brought up the drugs quite as honestly, let's say. As someone who, Vince clearly, hasn't liked for 8 years and didn't make amends with, unlike other people that he didn't like.
It's a terrible way to get revenge on somebody.
Yeah, but hey, how many times do we have to watch that Survivor Series thing over and over and over again?
I know, but can you really be so upset with somebody that I don't know?
Did he feel by having all these drugs that he was getting ready to come back into the mainstream again? And
I think he believed in his heart of hearts that Luger and Buff Bagwell, who were best friends, I think that they've never gotten, either of them have ever gotten it through their heads, no matter how many times they've been fired, how many times they haven't been wanted. I think even to this day they think that wrestling is all about who has the best body. And Lex Luger, even at his age, had a good body, although, I think he packed on a little bit too much weight, at the end. But and on the last tour, the last time I saw him, I should say. But I think that they just thought that we are stars and we have a good body, and sooner or later he's got to give me a call. And I think that's why Lex got huge, because he knows Vince is a mark for big bodies, which in fact he is. But
he probably thought that.
But the one thing that Vince is also a mark for, getting revenge for people who've done wrong on him, and I think that motivation was a little bit stronger. Plus, the other problem with Lex was, and I think that all things being equal, this was the deciding factor, is that Lex stinks. If Lex didn't stink, I think that Vince very possibly would have still brought him back. But that he stinks made that decision a lot easier.
But did Luger maybe have in the back of his mind thinking his best friend Sting possibly coming in June, that maybe he's going to put a good word for him?
Oh, I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. Yes. That's
who knows? He might have brought him back for maybe. You never know.
No, you don't know. You don't know. It would when I had heard the rumors that they were talking to Luger, which in fact were not true. There was nothing to them at all. But when I had heard that, it was like I thought they're out of their mind. But I believe it because they're out of their mind. Now, as it turned out, they weren't talking to him at all. It's like I could believe anything. It's like when someone brought up China today. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like I don't understand what you could do, but would I be shocked? No. After Sable, nothing's going to surprise me.
But if we
talk guy that would surprise you.
What?
Is there one guy that would surprise you right now?
No, maybe Bruno Sammartino. That'd be about it.
He just had surgery, didn't he not?
Yeah, he sure did.
And a quick note, when somebody was mentioning about Johnny Valentine, I used to do some work for Killer Kowalski, and he used to tell us a lot of stories about Johnny Valentine in the ring and how stiff he was, and one of his first matches against him, and the guy would hit him with forearms and forearm shots and knock the hell out of him, and he just gave it right back to him, and he learned his respect that way in the ring. Obviously, Kowalski being a bigger, just a bigger man as he was able to do that, but as the other people said, a lot of people didn't like him because he was so stiff, so hard in the ring.
I remember as a kid, I watched Johnny Valentine wrestle a guy named El Bengali, who was a smaller Mexican wrestler who wrestled in Los Angeles. It was like a TV squash match. And he got him over and started doing those. The Valentine thing, the same thing that Greg used to do, where you kind of drape him over and you just kind of unload on him. And I mean, that guy was like, home kind of unload on him. And I mean, that guy was like, oh my God, he'd never been hit like that in Mexico or in the United States. And I mean, he submitted from, he just hit hard.
Okay, thanks for your time. Have a good show.
Okay, you're very welcome.
You know what I watched the other day, speaking of Luthez?
Yes.
That Flair Steamboat match from the Hunter DVD. It was like...
The Nashville match.
Yeah. And they had the 3 judges.
Right.
And Flair's selling like crazy for the first 15 minutes, and all 3 just give it to Flair.
What?
And Flair's just crap out of him the second 15 minutes, and it's a split. Luthez thought that Steamboat took the second 15 minutes. I was like, how about that?
I remember whenever they did judges, it was never good. They just never got that one right. Let's go to James in Seattle. James, what's happening?
Hey, how's it going, guys? One of the guys way back there was talking about the horrible reaction that Nash was getting. First it was apathy, and then it was boos. And that's something I've noticed a lot, too, not just with Nash, but Cena's getting pops. The crowd has turned on Lesnar before they were sort of turning on him at Backlash. The Guerreros, total cheaters, are getting pushed as faces. They're getting face pops. Is this do you think this is a backlash, just bad products, so the fans are just sort of rebelling and saying we're not...
No, I think the fans for the last, 5-6 years have been cheering whoever they felt like it.
Do you think that this is something that Vince is going to have to adapt to? Because he used to...
I think that they started adapting to it years and years ago. When the first time they adapted to it was when they turned Rock heel. Because, believe me, in their minds, Rock was a babyface, and Rock was going to be a babyface for 10 years, and he was going to carry the company as a babyface in 2000. I think that was their timetable. And when he just got booed and booed because they shoved him too hard, when they turned him heel because the fans demanded it, to me that was the example of, and there's another one. I remember when Shawn Michaels was a heel and he just kept getting cheered, even though they had all these plans for Shawn as a heel, they turned him anyway because it was just like, we're not going to have a heel who gets cheered.
I agree with those examples, but I don't say that they have entirely adapted to that, though, because, I mean...
They don't know, but sometimes they have to a degree.
Hunter, I don't even know what kind of reaction he gets.
Hunter gets more cheers than boos. He gets that superstar. He gets the superstar pop.
Yeah, but I mean, they're still going with Nash, and they're still going with.
Nash.
They had Steiner in a pay-per-view title match two in a row, despite the.
But that was because of how things were booked. Okay, you got to remember the first one. He had not gotten booed. He was over like crazy until he had the first match, and then in the first match, it didn't work out so well. But they had already booked that DQ finish to build up the rematch. So, at that point, it was kind of like, okay, we're already caught. We'll go till then. And then, they haven't pushed him since that second match.
Yeah. It would have been really hard to call an audible.
In the middle of that match? Yeah, it could have been done, but no, it would have been really hard. You're right, because it's Scott, and he would have, you couldn't have called on audible.
Yeah.
He would have killed the man who suggested it.
It almost seems, though, like the crowd is starting to appreciate the better workers, the Guerreros.
Not always. I don't know. Sometimes, yeah. But
I think it's the people that entertain them.
Yeah. I think it's
with good wrestling or funny or a good rap. I mean, John Cena is not like the best worker in the world.
No.
But he comes out and he does his rap and everybody loves it, and he's entertaining.
Yeah. And you got I loved it when what was the rhyme he used called Benoit Dynamite Ripoff.
Yeah, that was a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Not many people probably got that, but it was funny to me anyway.
Yeah.
I had another question too. I want to talk about the Great Muta for a sec. I've been trying to find this out, and I can't find it anywhere, but he switches his moveset, his whole persona, when Keiji Muto turns into the Great Muta.
Yeah.
What is the storyline justification for why the switch happened?
theoretically, he's like a different character. He played, the Great Muta character is a heel character who just punches, kicks, and does juice to get through the match.
Like a Foley, like a persona kind of thing, or?
Similar, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the one other question I had is I've heard that Muto has an absolutely filthy mouth, and I had heard a rumor a couple times that when he was in WCW, he was doing like a guest commentary spot, and Shivani called a move wrong, and Muta corrected him in Japanese using I don't think I can say it without getting kicked off the phone. But I don't know if this really happened. You probably know what I'm talking about.
I don't know. I don't know that story.
I know Muta likes to say the F word a lot in Japanese matches.
Well, this was a different F word. This was a 3-letter F word.
Yeah.
And I'd heard that, Shivani called the move wrong, and Muta was just like, well, actually, it was a something or other. Nah. You
know what, though? He learned English from wrestlers. Think about that. So you're going to have a different language than...
That may have been the only word he learned.
I mean, that may have been the only way he could have expressed himself in the language, because that's all he knew.
I remember that they were talking to him. They had an interview with him on where they said, "Is anybody in WCW you want to fight?" And he was like, "Oh, yes, I want to fight a bald head guy. Goldberg? Oh, yeah, Goldberg."
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Okay. Very welcome. Let's go to Dan in Catskill, New York.
Yes. Hello.
Hey there.
I'm a little angry tonight because ever since Goldberg debuted, he's been bashed by the internet journalists for his work ethic, at Backlash. I didn't think it was that bad compared to the stuff he's done in the past. And also, Rock wasn't helping.
Yes.
And people were comparing it to, Steiner and No Way Out, and I don't even think it was close to that. And now, they're teaming him with Christian in a feud, and I think there's like some, anti-Semitism going on here, if you know what I mean.
Oh, please.
You were doing good there for a while.
Yeah, let's go to Jeff in Prospect, Connecticut.
So is Brock Lesnar versus Big Show going to be a stretcher match?
Yes.
You think they might surpass the precedent set by previous stretcher matches such as Andre the Giant and Kit versus Killer Khan or El Gigante?
Remember Sid Vicious and El Gigante? Did you ever see that stretcher match, Brian?
No, but someone mentioned that match when this was being booked.
Okay, Sid Vicious and El Gigante had a stretcher match. I was at this match, and Sid Vicious was supposed to lose because he was going to go to WWE. It was his last match in, and he would not ride the stretcher, so he just didn't have the... he just... I don't even remember if he got pinned. He just kind of lost.
I think it ended with Gigante got the pin, and then one-man gang beat him with the stretcher.
Yeah, it was lame.
What's next? Are they going to do another scaffold match?
Yeah. There was a match once. This is lame, too. It was Bob Backlund and Sergeant Slaughter in a stretcher match. I don't remember what city it was in. It was either New York or Philly, though, because I saw it. And Bob Backlund beat him with a chicken wing, okay? And then Slaughter went on a stretcher, and it was like, to me, it's like, how do you go out on a stretcher with a dislocated shoulder? I mean, you had to hold on for a long time, but it's like, you just got to do something, it's like, to me, for a stretcher match, you got to hit him with a chair or pile drive him. You can't use a chicken wing.
Do you have to go to a break?
I have to go to a break.
Put me on hold for a minute. I just had another question.
Sure can. Okay, we'll be back right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We're going to go back to Jeff in Connecticut. Jeff, on.
About a month or so ago, there was someone was posting columns on OneWrestling.com claiming to be a WWE worker.
Yes.
Willie the Worker.
Yes.
And just mysteriously stopped. Was that real, or was that just a ploy?
I'm under the impression that was real.
Do you have any idea who it could have been?
Oh, yeah, but I'm not about to say it because he's been punished enough as it is.
Because there was a lot of speculation. It could have been like Christian or Goldust.
It wasn't either.
No. I think they even stopped it, and they just said that. What was it? Were they getting a lawsuit or?
I don't know. To me, I don't understand how they ever posted it in the first place, because it was like when they first posted it, they didn't know if it was real or not, and it's like, if you don't know if it's real, like if you know it's real, like if someone who I knew would send it and goes, and I knew who it was, don't use my name because it will end my career, I would post something like that and just say, look, it's a real guy. But at the beginning, I think they probably did know soon enough, pretty quickly. But at the beginning, they did not know, and actually they claimed that they didn't know all along. And to me, it's like if you don't know, that's sort of semi-fraud to me.
Yeah, and why have they been having Lawler wrestle so much, like within the past 5 months? I mean, he doesn't wrestle all the time, but he's wrestled more in the past 5 or 6 months than he has in the past.
I think it's just a matter of
done the Jim Ross angle 35 times.
Yeah, well, you know what it is, because Jim Ross, the segment that they did in was it Tulsa or Oklahoma City over Christmas, did like a real big quarter hour and got this immense pop. And, you know, at that point, it's like, to me, it was really wonderful, and then you never do it again. But to them, it's like anything that's good, you do it until it's bad. So that just guaranteed we would see, you know, that with more angles with Jim Ross, Lawler, you know, makes sense for Lawler to wrestle.
You got the 55-year-old Lawler doing matches on Raw, but you got Jericho versus Hurricane headlining Heat.
Well, but it fit the story. It did fit the storyline in their writing stories. I don't have a problem with that, actually, even though it wasn't much of a match.
Yeah, I just have one more question. Is there any chance of Mick Foley ever making a comeback, coming back to the WWE?
Oh, yeah, of course there's a chance. I would be surprised if it doesn't happen at some point as far as being around. As far as in the ring, maybe for a match or two, I cannot imagine him going back to wrestle full-time.
Wasn't there coming close to having a deal before the Katie Vick thing? And then that kind of got him mad?
No. But he was going to come back to do Bite This, I think. You know, and he just decided not to do it because he figured there's nothing. He didn't want to say anything good, so why go on their show? Okay, we got to get out of here, okay?
Bye.
All right, you're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline, the radio network.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
Okay, welcome to the second hour here of Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and I'm going under the assumption that we're not going to have Jeff Jarrett on during this hour, just because we haven't heard back. But if he's here, he'll be here. We certainly have more than enough phone calls. We've got a full bank of phone calls. When someone hangs up, you can join in at 1-800-878-PLAY and get in on all this action. Brian, a lot of people talking about Confidential piece.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. But nobody watches that show. Maybe they watched this week.
I'm going to be actually interested to see what that rating was.
Yeah.
The rating the last few weeks has just been atrocious.
The week that they had Bob Costas on, the first quarter hour was tremendous. And then the rest of the show was atrocious. But most other weeks it's just been atrocious.
Yeah, like 600,000 viewers at the end.
There was the week before last.
There were 5 or something.
No, 343,000 viewers in the last quarter hour when they showed the Jesse Ventura Kurt Hennig match, I think.
Oh.
Some number like that. Whatever it was just a pathetic number.
Yeah.
So anyway, we are going to go to Jay in Harriman, New York. Jay, what's going on?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Going really good.
A couple questions for you. First, do you think Vince will ever go back to the NWO angle? And if he does, he'll bring Scott Hall back in?
God, I hope not. And Scott Hall back in. Somehow I have this feeling that someday that will happen again, but I don't see the NWO angle ever again.
Maybe he can do that when he brings the Intercontinental title back.
Do
it all at once.
China can go at
it. Maybe Invasion, too.
Yeah.
And my other question was about Barry Windham.
Yeah.
I was just wondering what led to his initial leaving the WWF back in 1985.
I don't remember. I don't know if he got burned out on the schedule or what, but he just came... He was more of an NWA type wrestler, so maybe he felt that, like, as a single wrestler, he wasn't going to get a push as a single in WWF, and perhaps his father convinced him to come back. Dusty Rhodes. I don't know. I don't remember the story on that, actually.
All right, guys, thanks a lot.
Okay, very welcome. I think we should probably head to a break right now. A couple of notes, actually, I want to make mention of before we go. A couple of deaths in wrestling over the last week. Kurt von Poppenheim. Did you hear anything about that in Oregon?
I just saw a little story on it.
Yeah, he was a star in the 50s in Oregon, and Dwayne Allen, who I remember watching when I was a kid, wrestling out of Los Angeles, passed away a couple of days ago at the age of 65. Kurt von Poppenheim, I think, was like 89 years old. Anyway, we will be back with more right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to the Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and we're here for 2 hours every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 to 7 Pacific Time. We're going to go to Savannah, Georgia, and Chris. Chris, what's going on?
Not much, fellas. How are y'all doing?
Doing good.
Okay. And I can understand with regards to this confidential piece last night. I'm looking at Vince McMahon, and he's saying, you know, hopefully some good can come out of Lex Luger. Hopefully people in our industry, he didn't say workers or the boys, people in our industry can learn from this and take something positive away from that. And the feeling I got from that comment was, it was the most disingenuous thing I'd ever, one of the most disingenuous things I've ever heard out of his mouth. First of all, whatever, what does he care about that, really, I mean, it's festering itself all in the...
Oh, he cares. He doesn't, you think he likes all these deaths that come on in wrestling? I think it's not the kind of publicity that they want.
No, absolutely not, but on the same hand, with such a high percentage of his own employees subjecting themselves to that same situation and set of circumstances, don't you think there's some proactive steps that could be taken in the future to prevent this? That, he's aware of this, that's been going on in the past, and, the whole thing in the early 90s, and it seemed like they were moving away from it, and now they're back to it.
I think I think that he wants it both ways. I think he wants it the wrestler's fault when something bad happens, but he doesn't want to do anything that would hurt business that would change that, and I don't think he wants to do, well, obviously, what you're talking about mainly, okay, the things that they can do. When it comes to guys who have been loaded, and sometimes it takes a while, but by and large, they do get rid of those guys.
I mean, he just hired Steiner, for God's sakes.
I think Vince's deal is, I don't think that he thinks that steroids are going to kill anybody.
No, he doesn't think it's steroids. I think that they're worried.
Recreational drugs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he sees a bunch of enormous guys who potentially could be on something, and he doesn't seem to think that that's a problem.
But
all these enlarged hearts are just,
Yeah, I think that they're in. I think that they're in denial of the fact that steroids are dangerous, and obviously Vince is because obviously Vince is. What can I say?
Yeah, clearly, and and I don't want to even venture a guess at the percentage of the boys that are on steroids because I'm not actually privy to that knowledge. But I would venture a guess as to say a large percentage are. And if he doesn't want this publicity and potential mainstream media backlash, don't you think he should, could, and would do something about it?
I don't think he will do something about it unless forced. And when he's forced, it will be too late. Because it'll be damage control by then.
That's the way it seems everything is.
Well, it always is. That's the pattern of Vince. The pattern of Vince is that he's real good at, after getting knocked down, in most cases, and this one this time may not be the last example.
David all the time, David and Goliath.
But he's good at crawling back and building himself back up after being knocked down. But when he gets up, he walks headlong into problems because he starts thinking that he's Buddy Rogers and he's, and he's real and this and that, and he gets arrogant and he makes elementary mistakes and he gets hit in the head again and then he's back down. I think that, this is, what we're seeing now is, another round of that. And, back in the late 80s, I mean, my God, if you really look at it, I mean, we all saw it coming. He got warned by everyone and he walked right into it anyway. And he'll walk into it again.
I mean, the thing about that whole piece was it just really, I thought the piece was well done, really well put together, slick WWE material. But the fact that, and I thought Vince was being as open and honest as Vince McMahon possibly can.
Yeah.
But he was completely disingenuous on the other hand, too. And,
Well, he's not, disingenuous isn't the word. The word is that Vince never takes credit or never, I don't say takes credit is not the right word, but he never accepts blame for those things because he rationalizes it having nothing to do with him because he didn't tell anyone to do any of that stuff. They chose to do it on their own. And I think that, and I don't think he's very good at taking blame. I mean, just, look at every couple of months when we have these stockholder things, and then they start talking about, the reason the ratings are down, and it's 9/11, it's the war, and it's this, and it's that, and it's full of it every time. But, they never go in there and they say, we just, you know what I mean? There's never, that acknowledgement that what we're doing, what we're doing isn't working, or that we need to make big changes. I think that this poll that they're doing, but the poll that they're doing now, is to justify. I mean, the way it's written, you can see the way the answers are, and the way it's written, it's to justify that we're right all along. It's not to learn.
No, absolutely not. And I've taken all of their polls. It's totally slanted.
Right.
And that's all you can really say about it. But, with the whole thing with the 911 call on there, and Lex Luke, it was really, really eerie listening to him,
Oh, that was scary.
The fact that I don't know what I'm doing, she's not breathing, and while that might have made an excellent piece of business, is that entirely appropriate? I don't know.
I don't know, but I've seen it on shows, so I can't. When Nicole Simpson, was beaten up by OJ, those 911 calls. I must have heard that call 50 times.
But does that make it any more right?
I'm not saying, but you're expecting Vince to have higher standards than a television news show. You're expecting wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just the deal. We got to get running, okay?
All right, Dave. Thanks for your time.
Okay, you're very welcome.
The thing about percentages of guys using steroids in WWE is, I was just watching a show. I was watching a show last week. Actually, it was a tape. And there was someone on there that I also saw on WWE this week who I guarantee that nobody would ever think this person was on steroids, and they had a totally different body.
Oh, I've seen some guys in OVW change in a week.
Oh, yeah. Well, and, when Dean Hill, the former chief of police, is pointing out that you have a different body this week, that's another guy you want doing it.
Yeah. Let's go to John in Poughkeepsie. John, what's going on?
How's it going?
Going pretty good.
I'm kind of down on the WWE product right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think Raw is atrocious, and the only thing good on that show is Chris Jericho. But what is your opinion on a promotion like Ring of Honor?
I enjoy Ring of Honor a lot. I just watched a tape of the Paul London American Dragon match, and that was
about that. I ordered it the other day.
It's a really good match. I didn't think it was the best match of the year, but it's a really good match. They had a match on that same show with AJ Styles and Amazing Red against Mark and Jay Briscoe, and man, AJ Styles and Amazing Red are such a great tag team. I enjoy Ring of Honor from start to finish, except for when they have the women's matches or some of the garbage matches that I don't really know why they put on the show. But I'd say 80% of the shows I like.
Okay. Because I was at one of their shows last at that tournament to crown a champion.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember the Amazing Red versus Low Key match?
Oh my God! You know what? That turned the first round. So that was the show that you went to. That was one of the best shows of any year. Because that had 6 or 7 matches that were just really great. Yeah.
It was 100 degrees in that building, but it was just amazing, that show.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to their next show at the end of this month. And just one final question. When do you think Tom Zink's going to be on the show?
Don't know. When there's a news story that involves Tom Zink or something, I'll put him on, or at some point, maybe even if there isn't, at some point. I don't know.
All right, Dave.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Let's go to Dan in Chicago. Dan, what's going on?
What's going on, guys? Got a question about Sting. I understand 3 to 4 weeks after Judgment Day. Any truth to that?
Probably not. But I don't know.
Does he have a contract signed?
No.
But from what I hear, isn't he made some kind of agreement that this next pay-per-view is his last WWE pay-per-view?
That's what he told Andrew McManus, that this last tour would be the last tour he'd be going on. And he did tell Andrew McManus he was going to WWE, but the WWE people don't think they're close to a deal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. And confidential. One thing that's bothering me is the fact that we went through that thing with the 93,000 at the Silverdome, even though you say it's 78. They had mentioned it again that it was 93.
They'll mention it forever.
Why is that, though?
Because that's their history.
Okay. Where do you get 78 though from? That's what I'm just kind of curious on.
The promoter of the event. I think we've gone through this one a million
Oh yeah, I know. I'm
times.
just kind of curious.
The promoter of the event, the settle sheet that comes from the event. I mean, that's just a number. What can I say? I mean, almost every attendance figure, okay, of a WWE live event, almost, there's some exceptions, but one of a pay-per-view, until they went public, is a fake number.
Okay.
You know, and it's weird because in some cases it'd be, you know, like they'll sell out a building with 16,000 people and they'll announce 17,500. It's like, what's the point? But they do, and I don't know why. I mean, I have asked, and the answer to that question is, in fact, Vince McMahon gave me this answer when I asked him once about, you know, why, and he said because anything that's on television is part of the entertainment aspect of the presentation. So if it's said on television, he considers it entertainment, not necessarily news.
And just wait.
What?
All these guys weigh more than they actually do.
Or less.
Inflate them a little bit. Bring them down a little bit.
Yeah, whatever fits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing on Luger, they made it seem like that was kind of a scary call, like you were saying. He didn't seem like he wanted to help her at all.
Oh, he wanted to. He was scared to death. I mean, your girlfriend's dying right in front of you.
I'd go over there and help.
Well, I'm sure he tried, but he didn't know what to do, and I think that feeling of helplessness was not a pleasant feeling when your girlfriend's dying right in front of you.
Made it seem like he was guilty.
He's guilty of something, but I don't know what. Anyway, we got to go head to a break right now. We'll be back right after this. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. And if you're looking for information on either of those publications, you can go to www.wrestlingobserver.com, and there's previews of this current issue that comes out tomorrow, both of Wrestling Observer and Figure 4, with a lot of stuff on Lex Luger and Elizabeth, tons of stuff actually, on both publications. We are going to go to Kyle in St. Paul. Kyle, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, how's it going?
Going really good.
Good, glad to hear that. First off, just quickly, I want to know, did the K1 response outweigh the XWF? I didn't see anything in the Observer this week.
Very barely, yes.
Okay.
But it's like, what, 1 is more than 0? No, actually, it's like 9 is more than 5. I mean, it's literally, I don't think anyone bought either of those shows.
I bought the K1 show, I just haven't had a chance to watch it.
I confirmed someone bought the XWF show.
Yeah, well, I think I got a few responses to the XWF, but I got a few more to the K1. I bought the K1. I thought it was all right, not great or anything.
No, it wasn't anything special. I thought the chyrons and the graphics and all that stuff looked really good. That stuff was sharp, but
yeah,
the fighting wasn't the best.
Yeah.
Back to Broken Hearts, we were talking about that a couple weeks ago. I can totally understand why Bret Hart would have a negative reaction to that book. I mean, who wants it out that their family was so poor you couldn't afford socks for the youngest brother?
Yeah.
That made them look awful. I wouldn't want them writing that about my family either.
Well, it's a rags to riches story.
Okay, yeah, I guess.
You could say that because Bret's going to write similar stuff.
Yeah. Well, I would bet that Bret isn't that hard on his family. Time of his family and his dad. That would be.
He won't be hard on them. No. Martha kind of thought she married into the Addams family, and she, and Bret will not be that hard on his family.
Right.
Only on some members of his family.
Right. Exactly.
What
about the part with Austin where she wrote that Owen didn't hurt Austin and that he was either just trying to get out of work or covering an earlier injury?
I think what we kind of think is that that's what Owen told her.
Okay.
Because she's adamant about it, I mean, it's not true, but
yeah,
I think she believes it.
She doesn't watch wrestling. Has anybody ever sat her down and showed her the tape?
Yeah, but I mean, I think that she believes he went in, and he did. He did go in. His neck was hurting him before that move, but that move, boy, it did him no good.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure if they could have had him work on TV for those 3 months before, or 3 months afterwards, he would have been.
Oh God! They were just sending him from doctor to doctor, hoping some doctor would clear him.
Yeah.
Because every doctor was saying, you're done, and he ended up coming back and having a lot of good years.
Right.
But yeah.
So you did see that Real Sports thing on Art Door, huh?
Oh my God!
Is Tough Man worse than pro wrestling then?
I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought Tough Man was worse than pro, because I thought he came off worse than, like a Herb Abrams type of promoter. He didn't come off worse than him.
Right.
But, Vince McMahon type promoter, yeah, he came off way worse than Vince McMahon.
Yeah, he just looked awful.
Yeah, they just nailed, God, he came off so bad. Yeah, they had the thing where, they show a clip of, a guy and he died in the ring from, a blow, okay?
Right.
And they go in there and, they go, they have like someone out there on a tape, I think the brother of the guy that died, going like, they didn't have a doctor, they only had a chiropractor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Artur goes, oh, that's not true. We had a doctor. There he is. And then they check guy, and they find out that the guy was a chiropractor. They just catch this guy in like the most ridiculous lies.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember a time, one of Brad Kohler's shows here in Minneapolis a year and a half ago, and he had Kara Levin, the local NBC affiliate, coming and doing a story on it. And of course, they interviewed him ahead of time, and he's like, "Yeah, we always have a doctor right here in the crowd, and here, and he's paid, and he's always on attendance." And sure enough, that night, a guy breaks his leg. The guy had him in a leg lock, and he tried to kick out of it, kicked his own leg and broke it, which was like the sickest thing I've ever seen. And sure enough, no doctor was there with the TV cameras filming all of this, and they had to wait 20 minutes for the paramedics to finally arrive and stop the show, and it was all caught on tape.
Oops. Yeah. And okay, you know what? That is why I want to tell you something. That is why that stuff, mixed martial arts, needs to be regulated.
Right.
It scares me because mixed martial arts. Pro wrestling is dangerous, but mixed martial arts is dangerous in a different way. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous and damaging with everything being done right. And I think that you should not be allowed. And Tough Man's even worse because the problem with a Tough Man is that you got these guys and they're not trained.
Right.
And then they don't know defense. You can get hurt if you know what you're doing, and you do. And every one of these guys that fights is hurt, and the ones who fought for years, they're all hurt and bad. But you get some guy who doesn't know what they're doing against a guy who kind of might know what he's doing, and it's really bad.
Right.
And a lot of that stuff just goes in, and they run in these states where there's no commissions, and they don't even have to have doctors. And some of them do have doctors, and some of them don't. But you got these, promoters that are going to do anything to save a dollar, kind of like old-time wrestling promoters, and it's, that's why they're, there needs to be a national commission that governs boxing and mixed martial arts and kickboxing and all of those things from people who know what they're doing. As far as pro wrestling, it would be nice if people who knew what they were doing it, but I don't hold my breath for it, so that's why I'm not so in favor of pro wrestling regulation, because it's a farce.
Right.
It's not done with people's best interest at heart. It's just, these people who write these rules. Brian, by the way, speaking of that, and I don't know if you know about this, Kyle, but, well, you probably do.
Yeah, I read the Observer.
You read the Observer. Brian, after all of this talk in Oregon, okay, about the silly rules in the new bill, did you see those rules?
No.
You haven't heard about the bill, the new rules for Oregon in the bill?
I haven't.
Okay, let's see, what are they? You can't hit with a closed fist. You can't pull hair.
Yeah, you can't do any flying moves.
You can't leave your feet for any moves. No flying moves. They're all illegal. This is the new 2003 Oregon wrestling laws. Okay?
Wow, so what's WWF going to do?
They're going to violate every one of those rules.
Yeah.
And the commission's not going to care. No one's going to care. But it's like...
Now, because someday one politician will figure out that they can fine them for every illegal move, they'll get a tape, and you'll see a lawsuit, I guarantee it.
Yeah, but then WWE will just never come back for 10 more years, just like they did for the last 10 years.
Right, but it'll still happen, because somebody will figure out that they can make money that way.
I don't think so, because,
Well, I like those rules. I don't want to do any flying anyway.
The only problem with regulation is even when MMA was banned in Minnesota before they closed down the boxing commission, people still ran underground events.
They do that in California. There's underground events in California all the time.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know how you...
I don't think that'll change even with the national commission. But, if it makes us look better, what do we care?
Yeah.
Finally, do you know why UFC's never come back to Iowa?
Because I think they drew so poorly the last time they came, and also Iowa had different rules. But I think it's more just because they drew poorly when they came.
No, I went that last time. I thought, they had a decent crowd for that time. In the middle of those 20 shows when they weren't really drawing anywhere. And that crowd was pretty smart to it.
Yeah,
at the end when they were throwing the trash in the ring.
Yeah, just that they want to be in glamour cities, and I don't know of any glamour cities in Iowa.
No, definitely not. Yeah, I'm sure it was more because they had to run there during the time, but...
Yeah, because they were running out of places to run at that point, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, you're very welcome. Let's go to Carlos in West Haven, Connecticut. Carlos, what's going on?
How you doing, Dave?
Doing really good.
I was reading Tom Zink on the internet how he felt that Lex Luger's collection of drugs were for his own personal use and not for sale. He felt that was the an average collection for a millionaire wrestler. What do you feel about that or know about that?
I disagree.
That might have been from when the story first broke and they had the listing in some of the newspaper articles.
Yeah, because there were listings of drugs that did not surprise me at all. But then when you find out there were hundreds and hundreds of bottles of some other stuff, I don't know.
It came out later that it was a lot more than people initially thought.
Yeah.
So, do you think this was, I don't know if it's a dumb question, this was stuff he was using throughout his career?
Oh, I think as he got older, he was using more because when you get older, you need more to stay the same. I mean, that's what, he's trying to have the same body he had, the same size that he had, not necessarily the same body, but the same size that he had. And you can't have that size when you're 45 that you had when you're 25. It can't be done, naturally. And I don't think he was using the same quantity when he was younger. If you look at him, I don't think so. But, as far as, when did he start using it?
Yeah.
He could have started, when he was in high school or college, for all I know.
He did have good genetics.
He has fantastic genetics. You know what's funny is people don't realize that even with fantastic genetics, to look like Lex Luger, did you see the one picture, it would have been late in the confidential piece, when he was doing kind of a crab pose and Elizabeth's hanging on his arm? And this is a guy who was probably about 41 at the time, because it was only a couple of years ago when that picture was taken, and he looks like a freak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's your opinion of your personal opinion of Roddy Piper saying that WWF cleaned up its act and he never would have come back, and now how
it's what's known as situational ethics.
You mentioned this on your show too, and you mentioned this on the internet, how he was so upset about the goofy Billy and Chuck wedding they were going to have, and then he comes in when they're having the lesbian angle with Sable, which either he's lying or he's just
situational ethics. It's very good to be. It's very easy to be ethical when you're not with the company. And then when they're throwing a lot of money at you, somehow you find a way to rationalize everything. Okay.
Thanks a lot. Dave.
Okay, you're very welcome. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and we're here every Sunday night from 8 to 10 Eastern, 5 to 7 Pacific Time on the Sports Byline Radio Network from coast to coast. We are going to go to Vancouver, British Columbia. And Ben, what's going on?
How you doing, Dave?
Doing really good.
I got a couple questions for you. First one's about Ric Flair.
Mm-hmm.
I heard he was on an Australian talk show recently, or I think it was yesterday, and he said something along the lines of Triple H is the greatest wrestler of all time. And I know he's being in character and stuff, that a man with his legacy, how can he say something like that?
Because he's trying to keep his job. Triple H is going to be the one who runs the company. So, think about it.
Just go to WWE.com and start reading articles written by various people.
Yeah.
And no one will say anything negative about Hunter.
And they'd be foolish if they did. Yeah. Because they're vindictive people.
They're all getting very, very wise.
Yeah, they're just getting smart. That's right.
Remember that thing Bradshaw wrote, how the brawl on Raw was intriguing and wonderful, and it's just like...
Because Bradshaw is in Ohio Valley, so he's making his downside guarantee and nothing else, and he's trying to get his way back on the main roster, and Bradshaw's a stand-up guy, too. I don't want to knock him, but it's just called, being smart.
Playing the game.
What you got to do.
Yeah, it's the game, yeah.
Other question was about Jim Ross. I've heard there's some heat right now between him and Vince, and he was sent away from the gorilla position or something.
Yeah, I heard that. I don't know. I haven't heard that there's any real heat. I think it was his job, and it was just like a misunderstanding.
Okay. People are making it sound like it's more than it is.
I think so. Yeah, I don't think... I haven't heard of any problems at all. He still got his job. That whole thing, when he was off Raw was just an angle that made us listen to Coachman for 3 weeks.
I figured as much, yeah. Well, thank you very much, guys.
Okay, very welcome.
Goodbye.
Okay, let's go to Joe in Charleston, South Carolina. Joe.
Hey, Dave, how's it going?
Going really good.
Hi. Hey, I got a quick question for you.
Sure.
This thing you just posted about Booker T on your website.
Yes.
Does he have SARS?
No. He just has the flu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because, they just went to Canada and stuff. And it'd be pretty good publicity if they got SARS.
Yeah, they weren't...
Well, they did do that story on the website.
Yeah. The odds of getting SARS in Canada, I don't know. I know people in Toronto, and it's like... that live there, and they don't even take it seriously. So you know what I mean?
Remember that earthquake we had here?
I don't remember
Big
specifically.
earthquake, and right when it was right when I got on the air, and you were asking, because I was late for the show.
Yeah.
And I guess on all the news stations they showed all this.
That's right. Now I remember. Yeah.
And it was like nothing happened here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same thing with the earthquakes here. I mean, I've lived here for 30 years, more than 30 years, and I've been through a million earthquakes, and I really only remember one, and the one was a big one. You know, the one during the World Series game. You know,
I remember that one.
Yeah.
I meant the one in 1908.
That was a big one too.
I got just one more quick question for you, based on last night's Confidential, Dave.
Yeah.
Do you think Luger went to the autopsy and asked for his drug bag?
Oh boy.
Let's go to Tony in Los Angeles. Tony, what's going on?
I'm good. Actually, I want to change my question to the book, the Jeff Hardy book.
Yeah.
Can I talk about that?
What about the Jeff Hardy book?
I want to do some references and I just want to talk about.
Go ahead, sure. I don't know what that's all about. Let's go to Dave in Pismo. What's going on?
Hey guys, I noticed something about the Confidential last night. I guess a production error. During the first segment about Elizabeth, Bruce Pritchard says that the Elizabeth Savage was the first TV wrestling wedding.
Right, and it was actually at least.
Well, yeah. Later on the show, they show a clip of the Uncle Elmer wedding.
That's right. They sure did, and they had the Butcher Vachon. The Butcher Vachon was a fake one, but then again, so was the Elizabeth Savage wedding. And I think that have there been other wrestling weddings?
In the WWE.
Not in WWE, but I think in I know that there have been weddings like at in other promotions for sure.
I believe so. I mean, it's a long, big business.
Yeah.
And I just love how they have Michael Cole, I guess the only guy with a legitimate news background, to narrate the serious Elizabeth piece.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was reading a bunch of baseball media guys this year, and I guess the former Craig I can never pronounce his last name.
Minervini.
Yeah, he's working, I guess, the Florida Marlins pre- and post-game show, and they do mention his WWE experience in his bio.
Oh, he does? Because a lot of the guys that have WWE experience, somehow it's not in their bios anymore.
Yeah, they put he used to be the formerly funked WWE Football League, the XFL. They gave him that credit.
That's right. Well, that's right, because he came back for the XFL. I remember that, yeah.
And I guess, is Sean Mooney still in Arizona?
I don't even know.
Last time I checked, I guess he was working either station or Fox Sports down there.
I just know that Sean Mooney was...
People are following his career.
Yeah. I just know that Sean Mooney was one of the ones who erased it from his resume. The WWE. And Todd Pettengill was the other one who, he hates when it's brought up.
I don't know. Sean Mooney, I guess, in doing one of the stories in New York a couple of years ago, he still sounded like he was doing a WWE event center when he was trying to deliver a regular story.
Yeah, I thought so too. I saw him on when he was doing. Yeah, that's. You know what's weird is I don't know. I can't handle newscasters or wrestling announcers who when I'm listening to them either they don't know what they're talking about, and it's so obvious that they're just there because of a pretty face. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, Mark Lloyd and Kevin Kelly, I know they were in radio before they came, but what exactly were their backgrounds? Were they DJs or were they newsmen?
I think Mark Lloyd did sports in Orlando, Florida, because I think he did because he was first doing the football league, or the Orlando Predators. What was the name of the Orlando team? Orlando Rage, I think, in the XFL. And Kevin Kelly was a big-time wrestling fan for his whole life, and I don't know what else. And I think he may have done some other stuff too, but he was a big fan.
And Coachman was the sports anchor in KC before.
Right. Before they found him, yeah. So
I'd love to see how he was, before he came in, see if he's any good.
I don't know. I mean, this was that was so weird. Boy, did they bury him on Monday.
Oh yeah.
They made him out to be such a... I mean, all the announcers, it's kind of like your role is to be a fool, but boy, they made him out to be a fool. Isn't it going to be so great? Me, the King, and JR working together? I was looking at that going... Yeah, when he said that, I'm going oh my God, you're getting buried tonight. And boy... and
I think he quoted it before, so even Ray Charles can see what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Hey, whatever happened to Chris Leary? I guess, the forgotten voiceover guy he used to be in, I guess, when they split the split last year.
What did happen to Chris Leary? I have no idea.
I mean, I think, they took him off TV, but he still did the voiceovers, doing the billboards for, the weekend shows, and then he's completely gone.
Yeah, he just probably found something else to do. I don't know. Or
for WWE.com.
Or they got rid of him because they get rid of people too. I don't know what happened to him though.
And he said that the WWE's will try to hire another announcer. There's a trade.
Yeah, there's a trade thing. Yeah, they want to hire another announcer. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully it'll be someone good. I know you're laughing at me. I know, and you're right. Well, how come it's so funny? And yet it is.
Well, it's funny because it ain't gonna happen. It's comedy.
But isn't it like so funny that like they've become that much of a laughing stock?
Yeah.
And they don't even know it, and they actually think that like they're a step ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just
Maybe
like,
that's the comedy of it.
I read about, actually, I hear about all these people that have so much stress in Ohio Valley, and I just sit there thinking, these people put out one of the best TV shows every week, and they're all stressed out. And here's Vince and Company putting out the Gong Show every week, and they're all happy. Oh, things are going great. That backstage brawl was cool, and
it's just the war.
Yeah, the war. That was a good one.
The war, and it's summer. No one goes to wrestling in the summer.
Yeah.
Spring, fall, or winter.
Hey, one more question: will my WWE stock ever go up?
It's been going up, hasn't it?
It's gone up a little bit, yeah. But I mean, as far as it's going to get back up to where it was, unless that they make some, big comeback that I don't see any signs of, no.
I was wondering, what should be decided to get rid of it once and for all? What
invasion.
Yeah, the invasion. When they botched the invasion, when Bill Goldberg came in and the first thing they did was change his music and had him sell the whole match, and when he put the wig on.
He lost some money with that wig.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I've been so scared to even look at the stock market for the last 3 years. I've been having unfold.
Well,
I'm an optimist. I think it's all going to go up one day. It's all going to come back to 1998 levels. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know. We got to get running, okay, Dave?
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, you're very welcome. We're going to go to Dan in Roxbury, New York. Dan, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, what's up?
Not too much.
This is Dan Wallers. I write the column for you on...
Dan Wallers. Oh, it's nice to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. I just want to, basically I want to agree with what everybody else has been saying, obviously. WWE is not good right now. But
that's an understatement.
Yeah, understatement of the year, I would say.
Yeah.
But if they're going to go with this Kevin Nash winning the title thing, I'm definitely not for that either. Because
no, when it comes to Hunter and Kevin Nash as world champion, I think that Hunter is a better world champion.
Yeah.
What's so much worse about Kevin Nash being champ for a while than Hunter? It's a disaster either way.
If they're going to go with the Goldberg and Sting thing later on down the road, I think it would be better for Triple H to keep the title, keep the title strong. I don't know, maybe. I don't want either one of them to be champion. I'd just soon rather see Jericho or RVD or somebody be champion. But
don't hold your breath.
Yeah, definitely not. What do you guys think about? What are the chances of Paul Heyman coming back as writer? Because obviously the shows were a lot better when Heyman was the writer.
They don't understand that though.
Yeah. He just always argues with them, and they want a nice cohesive staff that just goes, yeah, Vince, your idea is great,
man,
and it doesn't, say that, Paul Heyman kind of champions the cause of people who Hunter, has buried.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like his thought process is different from theirs, even though he tries to fit in and can be a really charming guy when trying to fit in, but ultimately, I don't think there's a good chance of it, but I wouldn't, he's still on the payroll. He's still doing consulting work for him. It could happen. Maybe Vince will just someday just go, this isn't working, and I'm going to turn it all over to Paul. I mean, it's possible. I don't expect it.
Yeah, that would, for him to do that would actually, mean that he would have to admit that he was wrong. And Vince isn't the type of person to usually admit that.
Although, he did in 97. I mean, in 97 when things were really bad, he was like, I'm old and I don't know what's going on. But then he made that big comeback, and now I don't think he can admit that, he's old and doesn't know what's going on. And, it's just his version of, it's his version of wrestling is just so, God, I don't know.
Outdated.
I guess outdated is the word. Everybody else's version they want to change it to goes even further back than Vince's.
Right.
I think that nobody's come up with this new idea of wrestling.
Inoki has.
Yeah, but that's too dangerous, and you can't do long-term programs when you're putting guys in shoots.
Yeah.
So it is new. I'll give him that. But who's got the new version of wrestling? But I don't know that would work here is Ultimo Dragon, because I just watched his last pay-per-view, and I mean it's a different thing. It's real entertaining, but it's more, it's more aimed at housewives. But it's 3 hours of fun when you watch the show. It's not deep. It's not really dramatic. So, I don't know. Anyway, we're going to go ahead to a break right now. Dan, thanks very much for calling.
All right, David. Good to talk to you.
Okay, we'll be back right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to the final segment here on Wrestling Observer Live. Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. And during the break, a caller called in and brought up another wrestling wedding that we hadn't talked about. Remember Tennessee Lee and Scary Sherry? Queen Sherry, whatever her name was in WCW at that point.
How about David Flair and Stacy attempting to have a wedding?
Well, I guess Tennessee Lee was also attempting, too.
Yeah.
And Billy and Chuck.
Yes.
And Hunter and Stephanie.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just watched that because I was looking at that Hunter DVD after the Flair match.
Yeah.
And those people all looked very different back then.
Yeah, isn't it amazing?
Not as different as the debut match of the Greenwich snob, Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Oh, or how about John Paul Levesque in WCW?
Where he came out of the swimming pool.
Yeah, John Paul Levesque. Well, I just remember John Paul Levesque when he did his first pay-per-view, and Tony Schiavone goes, he could become a top contender for the Cruiserweight Championship or light heavyweight title, I think it was called then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6'3".
Yeah. Let's go to Mark in Springfield. What's going on?
Hi, Dave. Hi, Brian.
Hey.
Hey.
I have a couple of quick questions for you.
Okay.
One is about Shane McMahon.
Yes.
And you guys were talking about a little bit about how, Triple H and Stephanie would be taking over the company, and I was wondering, what about Shane? What does he think about all of that?
He's a very disgruntled young man.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, who feels that the direction of the company is all wrong, and he's not alone in that thought process.
Exactly. I've heard pretty much the exact same thing. So I'm glad that I don't understand how come that's not really talked about quite as much. I guess.
Because
he's in a pretty sensitive situation. I imagine.
I don't know how. Stephanie's the daughter. I mean, and she gets along great with Dad, and she's got the boyfriend who talks wrestling 4 hours a day, just like Vince. I don't know if Shane's that into it, and it makes it harder to compete, if you know what I mean, for that thing.
Right. Second question, completely in a different direction. I was wondering if either of you have heard of Kaiju Big Time.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And weren't they on Jimmy Kimmel recently?
I think, yeah.
Yeah. Mark, we got to get out of here because we're totally done with the hour, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks very much for calling. We'll see everybody in a couple of weeks. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network.